Greetings, guys. Once again, I want to say welcome. For today's class, I'd like us to look at another organism that is called fungi. In our previous class, we took time to talk about the algae. And I said that algae is categorized under Talophyta alongside fungi. When we say that an organism has a talus-like body, or categorized under Talophyta, the reason is because this organism or this group of plants cannot be differentiated. They have body parts that cannot be differentiated, or they have a kind of body that cannot be differentiated into leaf, stem, and roots. There is no part of a fungus you can call a leaf. There is no part of a fungus you can call a stem. There is no part of a fungus you can call a root. So their body is not differentiated into these three main parts of a plant, though they are called plants. And of course, for an organism to be called plant, that organism, for a biologist, should have a cell wall. And this is the feature that fungus possesses, which makes biologists to call them plants. But for a microbiologist, a fungus may not be called plant to him or to her, because a fungus is between plant and animal. And that is because they have a plant-like feature and animal-like feature. Animal-like feature. The plant-like feature is, of course, the presence of cell wall, and the animal-like feature is the fact that they cannot produce their own food. They are heterotrophic, and they store their food in form of glycogen, which is a pure animal-like characteristics. So you can see uh, what you call fungi depends on how you want to categorize plants and animals. But like I said, for a typical plant, for a typical biologist, a fungus is a plant. And that is why it is categorized under the groups of plants we talked about when we talked about algae. Remember, I mentioned schizophyta, I mentioned talophyta, I mentioned bryophyta, I mentioned pteridophyta, and then I mentioned spermatophyta. So you can see these are the groups of plants, and fungi are categorized under these groups of plants, including bacteria, because bacteria fall under schizophyta, and the same thing goes with bacterium. So I've said that fungus have a kind of body, a talus-like body that cannot be differentiated into stem, leaf, and root. Please note that is very, very important. Then I want to begin to talk about the characteristics of this group of organisms that is called fungi. The characteristics of this group of organisms that is called fungi. Now, the first characteristic is the fact that they are eukaryotic. Eukaryotic. I've taken time to explain the difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. When you say that an organism is eukaryotic, that means that organism has a definite nucleus. And in addition to definite nucleus, it also has membrane-bound organelles. So fungus is an example of an organism that has a definite nucleus. Unlike what you see in cyanobacteria and even in true bacteria, those ones do not have a true nuclei, and they are categorized as prokaryotes. But fungi are pure eukaryotic organisms because of the presence of a definite nucleus. Then the second characteristic is the fact that they're heterotrophic. When you say that an organism is heterotrophic, it means that that organism cannot produce its own food, but depend on already produced food. And that is why you see that fungi can, you know, uh, can be called or referred to as a saprophyte, depending or attending to dead and decaying organic matter. And they can also be parasitic in the sense that they feed from their host, deriving nourishment at the expense of their host. So they don't produce their own food because they lack the necessary cellular machinery that helps in the production of food, and that is the presence of chloroplast or chlorophyll. So you can't find it in fungi. Then another characteristic is cell wall composition. Cell wall composition. In algae and in land plants, that is where you mainly see cellulose being a part of the component of a cell wall. But when it comes to fungi, the main cell wall component is what we call the chitin. Chitin. So if you look at the cell wall, you see chitin. However, there are some members of fungi that also have cellulose. Like if you look at the cell wall of members of members of Mycetes, you discover that they still have cellulose in their cell wall. However, majority of fungi have this component, this chitin, in their cell wall. Their growth as hypha. Fungi normally grow as a multinucleate filament, that is called hyphae. The individual bodies of fungi, is what they call the hyphae. Then the collection of this hyphae is now what they call mycelium. Hyphae, the collection of hyphae is called mycelium. So if you have different hyphae collected together or joined together, then you can call them mycelium. And these hyphae in fungi can be septate or aseptate depending on the group of fungi. Like if you look at members of I think Trichomycetes, you will discover that they are usually choanocytic, and choanocytic means aseptate. Choanocytic. Choanocytic. Choanocytic means aseptate. What does it mean to be aseptate? Aseptate means there is no cross wall. There is no cross wall. So we can have a fungus, a fungus body, or the body of a fungi that does not have cross walls. But we also have those that have cross wall. And those that have cross wall are said to be septate. Those that have cross wall are said to be what? Septate. Those that have cross walls are said to be what? Septate. So aseptate means not having cross wall, or not being divided by a septum. So but septate means that it is not being divided by a septum. They have cross wall. course what? Dividing them together. So that is what we mean by that. Grow, and it is also important to you understand that a fungi can also be unicellular or multicellular. We'll have fungi that have multinucleate layers of cells, and like I said, some of these cells can be septate or non-septate. So I'm trying to say that some are unicellular. That means that they have a single cell, and all the uh, all the activities, are being carried out within that single cell. We can see this in Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and that is the common yeast. You will discover that they have just a single cell. But then, if you look at members like rhizopus or the mushroom, you discover that they have many cells, and so on and so forth. So some examples of fungi are unicellular, having a single cell, while some are multicellular. Then I've explained the fact that some fungi can also exist as a parasite, which we're still going to look at when we come to advantages and disadvantages of fungi. Some can assume a parasitic a relationship, a parasitic position, while some can assume a symbiotic position. Like we have what is called lichen. Lichen. Lichen, in the case of lichen, this is a symbiotic relationship between algae and fungi. Why algae helps in making the nutrient available, for algae, why fungi, helps, why fungus helps, fungus is singular, fungi plural. So why fungi help in making nutrients available to the plant, and that is the algae, then the algae produces food, and the fungi, feed on this food, or depend on this food. So you can see that is a mutualistic relationship where the two organisms contribute to the success of that relationship. A minute. Okay, so having said that now, then for parasitic, we have so many parasitic fungi like the Tinea capitis, Epidermophyton flocosum, Aspergillus, Fumigatus, and so on and so forth. We are going to look at that when we begin to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of fungi. We're still looking at the characteristics. Then another one is usually non-motile. So the in general, fungi are usually referred to as non-motile organism. And when we say non-motile, that means they don't move, they don't have the cellular machinery that enables movement. However, if you come to some members of chytrids, the chytrids, there's some group of fungi called the chytrids, where we see the chytridomycetes and the hyphocytridomycetes. They are equipped with a flagella, and of course, we have two major types of flagella that you see in these fungi. We have the one they call the tinsel flagella, Then we have the whiplash. So this is how the whiplash look like. The whiplash. Then this one is the tinsel. So whiplash, and tinsel. The tinsel and the whiplash flagella. These are the two types of flagella you can see in fungi. So I was trying to say that members of the chytrids, like chytridomycetes and the hyphocytridomycetes, also contain motile cells, while fungi are generally said to be non-motile. Some are motile. That is what I'm trying to say. And we can find them in this group called the chytrids. And even in plasmodiaphragmicities, plasmodiaphragmicities, you can also see motile cells. Plasmodiaphragmicities was initially categorized under the slime mold, but now with modern classification of this group, they are now being categorized separately from slime mold because of few differences. But this is pure mycology, and I don't want to go into that. And that reminds me, the study of fungi, the study of algae, I think we mentioned that, mycology. The study of fungi is called mycology. 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 This is called the study of algae. Then we're done with this. The seventh one is storage of food. Fungi store their food in form of glycogen. Their food is stored as glycogen, just like normal animals. And it's also one of the reasons why they are said to be animals. Eh? Are said to have animal-like characteristics because they don't store their food in form of starch like land plants and some algae. Don't forget that some algae store their food in form of starch, and some other forms like chrysolamina, lamina, and the rest of them. We all studied this when we thought about algae. They have adaptability. Fungi are one kind of one group of organisms that can adapt in many conceivable ecosystems. They can adapt in many environments. Then reproduction. Reproduction can be sexually and asexually. And I think we're going to take time, a minute. We're going to take time to look at this reproduction in fungi. Reproduction in fungi. The study of fungi is so vast, so you have to be patient as we take them one after the other. The study of fungi is so vast, so vast. So reproduction in fungi. The topic is say fungi, reproduction. So let's look at sexual reproduction first. What's happening to this marker? Let's look at sexual reproduction. Sexual. Under sexual reproduction, we have what is called planogametic copulation. The second one will have gametangial contact. Gametangial contact. Then I'll have gametangial copulation. Then I'll have somatogony. Somatogony. But then before we go into this sexual reproduction, let's talk about the what is it called again? The the different terms used in the study of fungi. We'll have different terms that are used. Just a minute. Okay, we'll have different terms used in the study of fungi. Like there's what we call gametangia, gametangia, gametangia. So the sexual organs of fungi is what we call gametangia. The sexual organs of fungi is called gametangia. Gametangia. So it's important you understand this. because the gametangia is different from the gamete itself. The gametangia, the gametes are produced from the gametangia. So, having known this now, we'll talk about the phases of reproduction. Before we talk about the sexual reproduction, we want to talk about the phases. The phases. These are methods of sexual reproduction. So I want to talk about the phases. So under the phases of sexual reproduction, we have the one they call plasmogamy, plasmogamy, plasmogamy. Then we have the one they call karyogamy, karyogamy. I'll have meiosis, meiosis. So these methods of sexual reproduction will pass through these phases. The first one is plasmogamy, when two different protoplasts unite together, when two different fungi unite their protoplasts together, that is plasmogamy. Then when that's two fungi unite their protoplasts, of course, there is a fusion of their nuclei, and that fusion of nuclei is what we call karyogamy. Karyogamy. Anytime you hear karyo, just know that a nucleus is involved in it. Then, of course, meiosis now returns the diploid chromosome back to a haploid phase. That is meiosis. So these are the three phases of sexual reproduction in fungi. So we can now comfortably go back to talk about these methods of sexual reproduction. The first one is called planogametic copulation. Under planogametic copulation, what happens is that there is fusion of gametes. There is fusion of gametes. So the fusion of two naked gametes to form a zygote, of course, that is what we see under planogametic copulation. And these gametes can be motile or non-motile. The motile gamete is called planogametes. The motile gametes are called plano. The motile gametes are called planogametes. Planogametes. Then the non-motile gametes are called aplano. Aplanogametes. The non-motile gametes are called aplanogametes. And these gametes can also look similar in terms of structure, and gametes that are similar, gametes that are similar in terms of structure is what we call the isogametes. 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 Then if they are dissimilar, in terms of shape or structure, they are called anisogametes. Anisogametes. A minute. They're called anisogametes. Okay. So we have explained planogametic copulation. That is, that it involves the fusion of two naked gametes. Then in gametangial contact, you will see that two contacting or two opposite gametangia fuse together. And when I say two, I mean the male gametangium and the female gametangium. Gametangia is plural, gametangium is singular. So when there's a fusion of male and female gametangia, then there is a migration of the nucleus from the male into the female. When this happens, then it is called gametangial contact. Gametangial contact. Then the next one is what we call gametangial copulation. Gametangial copulation. In gametangial copulation, the gametangia of the contacting fungi fuse together. And once they fuse together, there's also the entire gametangia fuse together. And once they fuse together, we discover that there is usually a kind of uh, a kind of central fusion or mixture of the content. When I say the content, I mean the nucleus. Mm? There is complete kind of what is it called again? Mixture of the entire nucleus. So in gametangia copulation, the entire gametangia fuse together. Let me see if I can use a structure to represent that. So this is gametangium 1, gametangium 2. So in gametangial copulation, there is a, a complete fusion of the gametangia. And once this thing happens, then the content of these two gametangia also fuse together. The content also fuse together. Now, this fusion can be through a pore that develops at the point of contact. Sometimes a pore can develop at this point of contact. And a pore means a hole can develop at this point of contact in such a way that the entire nuclei of the two fungi will fuse together. Or sometimes it may not even happen this way. It may happen in such a way that there is a dissolution of the wall. Remember, this is the nucleus, this is the nucleus. Sometimes there may be a dissolution of the entire wall. The entire wall that separates the two different gametangia may be dissolved. And once it dissolved, then of course the entire nuclei will also fuse together. This is what happens in gametangial copulation. Then in somatogony, in this case, in somatogony, a fungi do not have this. A group of fungi do not have cellular structure. Reproductive structure. They don't have reproductive structure, and since they don't have reproductive structure, their somatic body take up the function of reproduction. And in this case, that discover that this is a fungus, this is another fungus. Then by the time they fuse together, they produce spores. Spores. The word soma means body. So the task of reproduction is being taken over by the bodies instead of reproductive structure, since they don't have reproductive structure. So this happens in some fungi, and that's what we call somatogony. Somatogony, where body cells take up reproductive function. So that is somatogony. And what we've explained now is cell under sexual reproduction. Let's now look at asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction in fungi. Asexual reproduction in fungi involves fragmentation, budding, then spore formation. Okay, there's another one I didn't even explain. There's another one I didn't explain under sexual reproduction, and that is spermatization. So there's some group of fungi that have a receptive hyphae, what we call receptive hyphae, and that receptive hyphae serves as the female part of the fungus. Then there is what they call spermatia, minute uninucleate spore-like structure called spermatia. This spermatia is being released from the male hyphae and being carried to that receptive structure in a receptive hyphae or a point within the hyphae of the female. And this spermatia, once this spermatia, once this spermatia lands on that female hyphae, a pore is created. mm, A kind of pore is created, and from that creation of the pore, fertilization occurs. So this is rare, but it's also a kind of reproduction, sexual reproduction that occurs in fungi. It's called spermatization. Spermatization. So let's go back to asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction in fungi. So under this asexual reproduction, we'll have fragmentation, and in this case, a hyphae of a fungus, breaks into different fragments, and these fragments that it break into, behave as spores. By the time they fall on the fertile ground, they germinate into a full organism. Then sometimes, before the release of these fragments, the fragment may be covered by a thick wall. And if it's covered by a thick wall in some fungi, it is now called chlamydospore. Chlamydospore. Let me check the spelling and be sure it's correct. Yes, it's correct. Chlamydospore. Chlamydospore. So, like I said, if a thick wall covers the spore before the release, it's called chlamydospore. Then the next one is budding. Budding. So in some fungus, so that reminds me, as this kind of asexual reproduction can occur in yeast. Saccharomyces. A yeast, Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Saccharomyces cerevisiae. This is commonly called yeast. A minute. Okay. So in body, a bud develops from the body of fungi. And of course, as this bud develops, there is a division of the nucleus of the mother. And once the nucleus of the mother is divided, then the daughter nucleus, migrates into the bud. And once it migrates to the bud of course continues to extend until it forms a mature bud. And once that mature bud is formed, bud, once a mature bud is formed, then it detaches from the parent body to live an independent life. So this is what we call budding in fungi. Is also another form of asexual reproduction. Then this can also occur in Saccharomyces cerevisiae, that is in yeast. They'll have binary fission. In the case of binary fission, an organism, the parent fungus, just divide into two daughter cells, as simple as that. And of course, this division, just like I explained in this one, is similar. This division occurs in such a way that, first of all, there is karyokinesis. Karyokinesis means the division of the nucleus. Karyokinesis. Division of the nucleus. And once the nucleus is divided, then of course, this is followed by the division of the cytoplasm. and that is cytokinesis. Cyto, cytokinesis. Division of the nucleus is karyokinesis. Division of cytoplasm is called cytokinesis. So that is what happens in the case of binary fission. The word bi means two, so the organism divides into two total cells, and this is not peculiar to fungi. There are other organisms that also divide this way. Then let's take some time to talk about spore formation. As a matter of fact, spore formation is a major form of asexual reproduction in fungi. The major form of asexual reproduction in fungi is through spore formation. Please note that the major form of asexual reproduction is through fungi is through spore formation. And in spore formation, you are going to discover that a fungi produces spores. A fungi produces spores in a sac-like structure. So this is a fungus, and that fungus sporangium produces spores in a sac-like structure that is called sporangium. The sac-like structure that is called sporangium. Now, this sporangium has what they call sporangiophore. This part of sporangium is called a sporangiophore, a reproductive branch. The reproductive branch that is carrying the sporangium is called sporangiophore. This is sporangiophore, Phore, 4. This is 4. It's different from spore, because I want to explain these terms now. So we'll have what they call sporangium. Sporangium is the sac-like structure that bears the spores, and inside this sporangium, we'll have two different types of spores. We'll have zoospore, and we'll have aplanospore. The zoospores are those that are motile. And when we say that they are motile, that means that they are equipped with flagellum or reproductive. They are equipped. When I say they are motile, that means that they have a locomotory structure that can enable it to move. So the spores are motile. Those ones that are motile are called the zoospore, and the ones that are not motile, the spores that are not motile, are called the aplanospore. So both the zoospore and aplanospore constitute what we call the sporangiospore or sporangiospores. But the reproductive branch that is carrying the sporangium is now called sporangiophore. The reproductive branch that is carrying the sporangium is called sporangiophore. Then these spores are now called sporangiospores. Then the sac-like structure carrying the spores is now called sporangium. So when this fungi is ripe and mature, then this sporangium breaks. And once it breaks, the spores are released into the external environment. And once the spores are released into the external environment, they likely fall on a good ground. And once that happens, then they develop into another fungus. And that is how their asexual circle continues. A minute. So this is 39 minutes. I wouldn't want this to exceed 1 hour. Let's see if we can finish everything within 1 hour. This is already 40 minutes. So there's so many things to talk about in fungi. Let me see what again we'll talk about. Let's talk about economic importance of fungi. Economic importance of fungi. Now, when it comes to fungi, you discover that fungi can be both advantageous and disadvantageous. So, we'll have advantages of fungi, we'll have disadvantages of fungi. So, in this case, in terms of advantages, you discover that there are some fungi that are used in the production of drugs, antibiotics. There is this antibiotics we call penicillin. Penicillin is produced by Penicillium notatum. So this is an importance of fungi. Fungi can be used in the production of antibiotics. Penicillium notatum and Penicillium chrysogenum. Then we also have fungi that can be used in production of citric acid. Citric acid, and you know it's important. Citric acid, the one they call aspergillus, aspergillus niger, aspergillus niger. Then we also have a fungus that can be used in the production of riboflavin. The riboflavin is in the category of vitamin B12. Vitamin B12. B12. We have the one they call Ashibia gossypii. Ashibia gossypii. So you can see this is another important fungi. Then we also have a fungus that is used or that helps in the production of plant hormone. There's a plant hormone called gibberellic acid. Gibberellic acid. This gibberellic acid is produced by a fungus called Gibberella fujikuroi. Gibberella fujikuroi. I hope you're seeing the board. Let me be sure you're seeing the board. Okay, it's clear. Gibberella fujikuroi. So this one is used in the production of this plant hormone that is called gibberellic acid. Then, what again? Fungi can also be used in production of bread. Production of bread. They serve as a rising agent in bread production, and not just in bread production, even in production of wine. So the fungi that is used in bread and in wine is the one I mentioned before, Saccharomyces. Saccharomyces cerevisiae. So these are some of the advantages of fungi. Advantages of fungi. Is there anyone I'm missing? Okay. Fungi can also serve as food. Fungi can also serve as food to man. Or have some fungi that is eaten as food. These ones that are eaten as food, we have to be careful with them, because if you are not careful, you can eat the poisonous one. The fungi that is eaten as food is called a mushroom. The mushroom. And we have two categories of mushroom. We have Agaricus campestris or Agaricus biosporus. They have Amanita phalloides. So Agaricus campestris, Agaricus biosporus, then Amanita phalloides. So these are the two different categories of mushroom. This one is called the edible mushroom, but this one is called the poisonous mushroom. Once you eat this one, you'll be on your way on the expressway to meet your ancestors, because this one is poisonous and should not be eaten. Amanita phalloides. The edible one is called Agaricus campestris or biosporus. So is there any other? Okay. Then it's also important you know that fungi can also be used in microbial genetics. In microbial genetics, in the study of can be used in microbial genetics in the study of some cellular processes. Like there's what we call cytoplasmic streaming. Cytoplasmic streaming, which occurs in some organisms. We have a fungus that scientists uh, have used in studying this cellular phenomenon, cytoplasmic streaming. So the group of fungi that is used in genetic study is called the neurospora. 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 I don't know why all my marker misbehaved. Neurospora. I'll have neurospora. Neurospora cytophila. Cytophila, and I'll have crassea. Then we also have another fungus that is used in no, sorry, the one that is used in studying cytoplasmic streaming is not I've missed something up. The one that is used for microbial studies is this one I've mentioned now. This one I mentioned now, Neurospora. Yes, Neurospora. So the ones that are used in microbial genetics, study of microbial genetics is this one, Neurospora cytophila or crassea. Then the one that is used in studying the cellular phenomenon called cytoplasmic streaming, cytoplasmic streaming, the way nutrients circulate within the cell, which is found in some organism. Uh, so the one that is used in studying this cytoplasmic streaming is the one they call Physarum, Physarum polycephalum. Yes, so this is the one that is used in studying the cytoplasmic streaming. Cytoplasmic streaming. This one is used in study of cytoplasmic streaming. Then this one is used in genetics study of microbial genetics. Microbial genetics. Then we also have fungi that is used in cooking of in cooking of soup. I think thickening of melon soup. Pleurotus tuberosom. That this is you. Pleurotus tuberosom. This one is used in thickening of melon soup. Thickening of melon soup. This up to 1 hour now. Okay, just have 12 more minutes to round up. So use this one in thickening of melon soup. Pleurotus tuberosom. So let's now talk about disadvantages of fungi quickly. There's no more time. Quickly. So fungi can cause many diseases. They serve as parasites and they can cause many diseases. We'll have the one they call Epidamophyton flucosum. This one causes what they call, can you see that? Okay, because this is not visible. I don't know what's happened to my marker. So this one is called Epidamophyton flucosum. This causes what they call athlete's athlete fruits, athlete fruits. Mm. So this is what they call the athlete fruits. Yes, athlete fruits. Then we have this fungi or fungus that infests the scalp of children, the head of children. It's called the tinea capitis, tinea capitis. They also have tinea corporis, corporis, corporis. So capitis is the one that causes disease on the head, capita, capitis. Then the one that causes disease on the body is called corporis. They also have a fungus that infects the respiratory tract. It's called the Aspergillus fumigatus, fumigatus. Then there are so many of them. I just want to remember the most important ones. Then, of course, you know that fungi can cause a lot of diseases in plants. They cause a lot of diseases in plants. We have what they call phytophthora, phytophthora, parmivora. This one causes disease in cocoa. Then you have Pyracolaria oryzae. Pyracolaria oryzae. This one causes disease in rice. Then which one again? Sarcospora sp. This one in granules, Sarcospora sp causes disease in granules, and so on and so forth. We will not be able to exhaust all of them, and so on and so forth. So lastly, before we now go, this is 52. We're left with 8 more minutes. Lastly, before we go, let's talk about the divisions of fungi quickly. So fungi can be divided into two groups, two main divisions. We'll have the one they call the Mycomycota, and I'll have the one they call the Eumycota. The Mycomycota and the Eumycota. So when we talk about these are the two main divisions of fungi. As a matter of fact, we have the main division is called mycota, fungi. Then two main divisions, Mycomycota and Eumycota. Now, this group of Mycomycota are no longer categorized as fungi in modern classification of fungi. The reason is because they contain a class they call Mycomycetes, and the common organism under this group, Mycomycota, are called the slime mold. The slime mold. So this slime mold are more related to protozoa than even fungi, even though they have protozoa-like catalysis and fungi-like catalysis. For instance, you discover that they have a body they call plasmodium, amoebic. They have a body called plasmodium, and they also have amoebic movements. I'm talking about the protozoa-like catalysis now. They have amoebic movement. That means they move like amoeba. They move like amoeba with the use of a pseudopodia, of course, and they also feed like normal amoeba through the means we call phagocytosis. They feed through this method that's called phagocytosis. So you can see that, and of course through this means they engulf bacteria. So you can see that these are pure protozoal catalysis, and they are not fungal catalysis. However, they also have a fungal feature, and that is why historically this group of group of organisms were categorized under fungi, because they also produce spores. So spore formation occurs in them. They produce spore, and they also depend on. They also feed on. They also saprophyte. Let me use the word. They also saprophyte. So fungi are saprophyte, and they also undergo what we call extracellular digestion. That means they release enzyme that helps in the decomposition of the of food within the environment before they begin to absorb it. So this group of organisms are not true fungi, and that's why they are categorized under Mycota. The true fungi are found under Mycota. The true fungi are found under Mycota. So let me quickly talk about them. But before I talk about the true fungi, there is this group of fungi called Plasmodiophragmites. Plasmodiophragmites. These Plasmodiophragmites we are also formally classified under Mycota because of these characteristics I've just shared now. But in modern classification, no, science keeps evolving. So in modern classification, this group is no longer classified under Mycota. They have a separate group of themselves. So, but then let's concentrate on the Mycota. The Mycota, which are the true fungi. Let's concentrate on the true fungi. So under the true fungi, we'll have the following. Under the true fungi, we'll have the following groups. I can call them classes. We'll have the Chytridiomycetes. We'll have Hyphochytridiomycetes. And like I said, this Umycetes is now in a separate group, no longer under Mycota. Because, like I said, unlike other fungi, this one has cellulose in its cell wall. But let's just put them under here, but they are no longer classified under Mycota. Initially, they were. Then we have the zygomycetes. Most of these things, okay, zygomycetes, let me just complete it. Zygomycetes. Then we have the deuteromycetes. Then we have the trichomycetes. Then we have the, what's it called again? The ascomycetes. Then we have basidiomycetes. 2 more minutes to go. So quickly, this is Chytridiomycetes. They are just characterized by the presence of either most of these groups of fungi are characterized either by presence of posterior or anterior thin cell or whiplash flagellum. I wouldn't want to go into that because of our time. I want to concentrate on this one. I want to say something about this one, then this one quickly, then this and this quickly. So zygomycetes, members of this group are usually choanocytic, in the sense that their body or their hyphae does not have septum, does not have cross wall. Remember, that's what we call choanocytic. Then they also are known to produce a kind of sexual spore that's called the zygospore. They come to Ditromycetes. These Ditromycetes are called the fungi imperfecti. They are called fungi imperfecti. Fungi imperfecti. I want to say fungi imperfecti. We mean imperfect fungi. And why are they called imperfect fungi? Because their sexual phase has not been discovered till now by scientists. We already know how they undergo asexual reproduction, but how they undergo asexual reproduction is still a mystery to the scientific community. Then that's why they're called the fungi imperfecti. Then coming to ascomycetes. Ascomycetes and basidiomycetes, these are the higher fungi. Eh? They are called higher fungi because this one is called a sac fungi. This one is called a club fungi. This one has special sac-like structure which they use in housing their spore. So for ascomycetes, ascomycetes, their spore is called ascospore. Ascospore. And they house this spore not in sporangium like other fungi. They house this spore in a special structure that's called the asci. Ascus. Asci is plural. Then ascus is singular. Then this asci or ascus is being produced by a, a, a fruit-like a fruiting body. A fruiting body they call the ascocarp. Ascocarp. A fruiting body we call the ascocarp. This is where you see the penicillium, the penicillium aspergillus, the truffles. Let me name them. Yes, I'm correct. This is where you see under ascomycetes example. You see aspergillus. That is example of members of omycetes now. Examples of members of omycetes. Members of omycetes. You see aspergillus. You see uh, penicillium. Penicillium. Then truffles. Then lastly, basidiomycetes. They are also similar to ascomycetes. They produce a special spore called basidiospore. Basidiospore. Then this basidiospore is produced by basidium. Basidium is produced inside a sac-like structure called basidium. Then this basidium is now produced by a fruiting body called basidicarp. Basidicarp, just like in fungi, just like in ascomycetes. Sorry. This is where you see under basidiomycetes. That is where you see the coral fungi. You see the jelly fungi. You see the shell fungi. You see the smots, the earth star, and the rest of them. And the rest of them. Earth stars, yes. Then the puff balls. The puff balls. The puff balls. So it's been a long 1 hour studying fungi. You can see how vast fungi is. So this is where we'll stop. In our subsequent class, we'll look at this group of plants called the Bryophyta. Thank you for being part of this class. Share this video to as many as you know that will benefit from this class. I remain Dr. Anhujon Uchenna, aka Dr. Temple. See you in my next class.